have, in Whitman, this infinite enumeration, of things which are entirely heterogeneous. But in Vertigo, it's not so heterogeneous as it is in Walt Whitman, But and there is this more specific, emphasis on the man-machine relation, But I think what is interesting is this kind of creation of this equal reason, What happened? Because what is interesting? Of course, in the scene of the beauty parlor, you have two things. You have of course, you have the cheerfulness of the woman, and you cannot, you cannot say, oh, it's a upper class woman, it's a nep woman, no, because it may be the same, which after, plays, seems to play the part of a worker, but it's not. So it is, it is not. What is important is not so much this aspect, but the aspect of the hands. The hands, washing her hair. So, and the movement of the relation between this movement and the movement of the seamstress, with her needle, and the movement with the abacus, and the movement of the man, and then with the typewriter, and then the assembly line, etc., etc., etc. I think what's important, I think, is this arrhythmy, basically. No, but a lot of. I know you had a question at the very beginning, so.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to ask you to maybe talk a little more about. I think I lost some of your main argument, and I'll have to go back and YouTube it, I guess, later to really respond. But I wanted you to talk more about this idea of not being able to nullify an image with using another image, or to subtract by adding, in film in particular. And I'm warning you, you're talking partially to a class that's been talking all about minute difficulties in negation all week. My questions are mainly, what does this mean to nullify, like to destroy, and also in terms of the image, is that all we're seeing, an image? I sort of come to film more from thinking about spectatorship. How do you forget an image? How can another image actually nullify another image? And in particular, a film that I think, if you haven't seen it in relation to what you've talked about tonight, would be an interesting addition to this sort of history of cinema that you're seeing, is The Brown Bunny, and in general the films of Vincent Gallo, which specifically try to nullify an image using another image. Specifically, they try to film pornographic acts, real sex on camera, and then use narrative means to nullify those images. He also, in a way, because he's filming himself most of the time, he's the only cameraman, and he's the star of the film, becomes a sort of accidental, totally non-communist Vertigo in a way. But he ends up, in every shot, the camera and the cameraman are very present. So I think it'd be an interesting thing to include. But mainly what I'm interested in is knowing more about what you mean by that you can't nullify an image with another image. What I just said, you have seen an image, So you have seen. Let us take up my example. It's John Ford's. Liberty Valance. James Stewart is here. Lee Marvin is here. And there is is here. There is and so there he shoots, and Lee Marvin falls. Okay, so it's extraordinary, this lawyer who knows nothing about guns, etc. He has killed the bandit, etc., etc. Okay. But at a certain moment, so John Wayne thinks it's time to explain to his friend, the truth, that he did not kill, that he did not kill Liberty Valance, but that he killed. And there is this reconstitution, but this reconstitution, which is an addition, we have seen the crime, And we hear somebody say, no, it did not happen that way.
And it didn't happen that way nullifies the image, you know. Nullifies the image. No, it doesn't nullify the image. It nullifies, you know, well, in fact, you know, the perception of the character, you know. It nullifies the perception of the character, and it gives, let us say, an information to the spectator, you know. Well, there was this that image, you know, James Stewart is here, Lee Marvin is there, he falls, but after all, we could not follow, of course, the direction, you know, of the ballet. So, okay, but at the same time, but you know, so the information, it is okay, you know. But then after there is this reconstitution, you know, this reconstitution which is, it is not the same. It is not the same place, you know. So it appears to be something which is added, you know. It is added, you know. In a sense, you know, with words it was perfect. No, it did not happen that way. Okay, perfect. But if when you show how it didn't happen, you know, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I would say it's a visual fact, you know. It's a visual fact that, you know, well, you know, because the image has the same status, you know, the same status, you know, with words, okay, you can make a statement, you make a statement, you make a statement, and after, you know, there is another statement saying, well, it was a lie, okay. But with the image itself, you know, cannot prove the lie. It's quite interesting in Hitchcock's film, you know. Yes, well, the image cannot produce, you know, the negation of an other image, you know. Or you must use some kind of rather, you know, unpleasant devices, you know, for instance, in the dream images, you know. So you have to use, you know, some special effects, you know, to say, oh, but it is a dream, you know. But
no, I want just to support you by an example. I wondered why you didn't mention it, because it's the ultimate proof of what I think you are trying to say. You remember the great problem of Hitchcock's stage fright, where at the beginning you see in a flashback the image. But Hitchcock cheated because later you learn that the image was a lie. But it doesn't work. You cannot negate the image, it was all a fiasco. And another example in the same direction, would you agree? You know Rashomon.
yes.
What is so interesting, I read in a book on Kurosawa, is that Rashomon, the very same film which in 50-51 for us in Europe was the discovery of Japan, Japanese spirituality. I read that in Japan it failed, being perceived as too European. And the point was precisely as what you would say, that it works as a novel, works this Rashomon point, but the moment you have images, it doesn't play these multiple perspectives. Precisely as you said, images cannot suspend each other in this way. It doesn't work. So I totally agree with you here. Yeah.
But,
Okay.
I would say, I don't agree with you about the nullifying, especially in the man who shot Reluctance, for a younger generation who have seen so many of these things. For instance, I'm older than most of the students here, and I didn't believe that James Stewart shot Lee Marvin. I simply didn't. And with so many of these twists in so many TV shows and so many movies, how can we suspend that kind of knowledge of bad, let's say, Reluctance was not a bad script, but so many bad scripts where you know exactly what's going to happen. So predictable. And I mean, maybe an image can't nullify the image, but the knowledge of an image. And that's pretty sad.
That was my point precisely. Well, the operation of nullification is made by the knowledge, about the image, you know. But no, there was two questions here. I think who had a question? You had a question, please. Yes, you had a question.
Yeah, I've just. I want first to of course thank you for your nice lecture. Thank you. And then I just associated a very recent movie, and I would just like to hear what you've got to say to this, because we are dealing with much more older movies now. And sometimes it's perhaps